that going. But yeah, we'll let people kind of filter in here. Like I said, we plan for about 30 minutes. We'll go into about 15 minutes of questions, 15, 20, and we'll keep it pretty flexible, and allow some time for networking depending on, so far it hasn't been huge groups where we need to necessarily go into a bunch of different breakout rooms. So we've kept it really all in the same room. But as we grow, that's what we'll plan to do, is just do those breakout sessions. So, and we got James sporting our nice Zoom background down there.
Jens, how you been, buddy? Long time.
Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
Welcome back to the US, I guess.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I don't have to get up at 0:30 to have a conversation.
We had a few of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some dedication. He was on our Zoom meetings every week and up at what, 4 a.m.?
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
Jens, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Tom. How are you?
Doing well. We got to catch up. I was gone all last month. So
okay, yeah, we need to get another meeting up, and we're taking some steps to move forward on that planning of that event. So we're gonna once we have some numbers, we'll all meet again on that.
Awesome. Hey, Noel, do you know how many folks registered up for tonight?
Did you take a look at that, James?
I can look here in a sec. Give me a sec.
Typically how we do it, it just kind of, we allow the meeting just kind of form itself. And, you get people on who want to dig in more, we'll do that. We want people to be involved. So Abe, Bert, Jeffrey, Miles, all of us, we want everybody to be involved and ask questions. So don't be afraid. And if you guys don't feel comfortable chiming in on your microphone, so 109. Okay. Type in your chats in the chat box. If you have questions, if you think about it as you go, write them down. But, if questions load up in the chat box, we'll hit them as we go along here in a little while.
Yeah, that'll work. Awesome.
Sounds good.
So yeah, I'll go ahead and we'll get us started. People kind of filter in, but I think everybody that's on here so far knows us, the JCore team. We got Tom's been out of the loop here for about a month, so he's a new face for some of you. We got James and then Miles down there at the bottom hiding out. So got all four of us. I'm actually in the Army, retiring soon. Miles down there is he was Air Force, just transitioned to Space Force. Tom's retired Navy. James, former Marine, now foreign service. So
Semper Fi, Marine Corps birthday is coming up.
Yeah, it's Miguel. Miguel's a fellow Army aviator. Just linked up with him recently. How's it going, Miguel? And yeah, so we'll probably see if
he doesn't want to talk to you.
I don't. Yeah, I want to talk to you, Tom.
Hey, that's a good day.
Man, I'm hurt. So now we'll go and get started. I'll go ahead and introduce Jens. So Jens is actually, I met him first in January of 2020 at the Broadcliff boot camp in Los Angeles. And that was me just trying to figure out the whole multifamily thing coming out of single family. And I remember sitting down talking to him a little bit and finding out, just asking him some general questions. And, it sounded like he was pretty successful with it. And that's where we first met, stayed in touch through the Warrior program, and he's been a good mentor and kept up with him a good bit, and got to hang out at the latest not boot camp, but Michael Blanc conference over in July. So we got to meet each other in person. He's much taller than he looks on Zoom. He's actually taller than me, believe it or not. So Yeah. So Jens is you from originally from Denmark, and I'll let you kind of go in and tell your whole detailed story. But basically, yeah, you got into multifamily, took off, and left your IT job. So I'll hand it off to you now.
Well, you just summarized it all, Noel. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just share my screen here because I have a little presentation that I have done a few times. Let's see if I can get back here. There you go. You guys see this okay? Okay. So thanks, Noel. So yeah, so I like to kind of maybe just share a little bit about my journey, right? Because a lot of people, they will see, quote unquote, people who have reached a large number of units, and it's like, oh my God, how do I get there, and what's the process and all this. So this presentation just kind of talks a little bit about how I started just with fourplexes a little over 5 years ago to now over 1,300 units. I clearly don't own 1,300 units by myself, but I've created some amazing partnerships that have allowed me to get involved as a general partner in over 1,300 units. And I really want to just share this story just to get people some inspiration to see where I came from. There's a setback kind of in the middle that I'm going to talk about. And then there's some change of direction, some change of intention that I had that really helped me progress at a pace that has accelerated. So let me see here. So I kind of split it out here, like 5 years kind of into flash where I ended up. I mean, I literally did not know anything about multifamily investing in early 2016. I picked up a book, Brandon Turner, How to Invest in Multifamily, or whatever it's called, or rental property investing, I think. Didn't know anything about it. And I was like, man, I got to figure this out. And I quickly connected with some brokers, started buying some deals, and then progressed through, 2017, just one deal, 2018, a couple of JV deals, and then up to 2019, 2020, and 21, really got into the syndication world and was able to leave my job here in 2021 and the early part of the year. I'm not going to go into all the details about number of units per year, but I want to just kind of show the progression. If anybody had questions along the way, please, put them in a chat and we can address them later. So why multifamily real estate? I'm sure everybody on the call has their own reasons for it. I have a 27, 28 year IT career. And I was like, man, I'm looking at another 20 years of doing the same stuff. So I wanted financial freedom. I wanted some new options, but everything I looked at just looked like a new job. I could become a consultant, or I could find a new job. I didn't really have a meaningful way to impact my income until I discovered real estate. It's like, oh man, here's something where I can scale. It's not directly tied to my hours, to my work, on a one-to-one basis, and there's all these opportunities for scale and leverage and all these things that was really new to me from coming from just a W-2 mindset. I wasn't super satisfied with the returns in the stock market. I went through the 2000 .com bust and 2008 bust, and then during 2020 we saw it go, how the stock market gyrated. It's now back up, but it was just I didn't have any control over, and I felt like my broker was always getting paid, regardless of what direction the stock markets were going. I also wanted multiple streams of income, and I think one of the key things as a W-2 employee, like, oh man, this is safe. We got a job, that's the safe thing to do. But in reality, it's not very secure, because if somebody wants to lay you off, and we saw again what happened in 2020, so many people suddenly lost their jobs and was just out. If you just rely on that one, or maybe with a spouse, those two W-2 jobs, that's not very safe, and you're just at the mercy of your employer. So I wanted additional streams of income. So in case a job changed and I want to work through hours, I still had the opportunity to make some income. And then I'm drawn to real estate, through the monthly cash flow, which is, true financial freedom. If your monthly cash flow exceeds your expenses, well, you have a lot of freedom there. The principal pay down, your tenants are paying down your principal. Equity growth, we've seen tremendous equity growth and that seems to continue. So while you're sleeping, somebody's paying down your principal and the value of the property grows if you maintain it and upgrade it. And then also favorable tax treatment, which is one of the things that you may not have in stocks investing. And of course, I didn't mention here, but the ability to leverage. I mean, you can't really leverage any other investment. So that was like so amazing, all these benefits to it. And I think a key thing to realize too is if you look at the tax code in the US, it's written very much towards this type of investment. So you can kind of get a clue by reading the tax code and saying, oh yeah, they want us to invest in real estate. That's why they're giving all these tax breaks and so forth. So take advantage of that when it's there. All right, so how did I start? So I lived in Colorado, southwestern Colorado. Now I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but I started investing in Albuquerque. And I started really small. That was the closest, biggest city to where I live. I started small, about these crappy small fourplexes for like 117K, I think, for this first one, and 150K for this second one. And then shortly thereafter, I bought this 11 units. I've since sold these two with some good profits. I actually still own this one. It is certainly, to call it a class C, you're definitely very generous. It's probably a C minus or D plus, but it cash flows really well, and I have a good property managers on there, so it still works for me. And I let them deal with all the management of it. So that's how I started. That was all in my own account. So 19 units in about a 6 months period. I connected with an excellent broker who's still my mentor. He's in his 70s. He loves to work with new investors and so forth, especially on the smaller scale. So he's become a good friend and a mentor, and that's been a great relationship. So I think the first lesson is there: connect with the brokers, make sure you can close, maintain those relationships, because that's going to make you a lot of money over time. Then I also realized that, I wanted to scale. I didn't want to continue to buy those smaller deals in my own account. So but I didn't have the funds to go after, 30, 40 units myself. So this is actually with that broker I just mentioned. I talked to him, his name is Chuck. I said, hey, Chuck, if I find a bigger deal, would you want to partner with me? Because I felt like I needed his experience to be able to do something larger than what I already had. He said, yeah, sure. So we ended up, him, myself, and I had a couple of friends that came in, and this other guy. So 5 of us, we bought this deal in May of 2018. $1.2 million. It was pretty crappy. It was one of these typical situations where somebody had bought a property. They didn't have the funds to really maintain it, to really keep it up to date. So it kept deteriorating with the result that, the tenant class kept deteriorating, the units weren't in great shape, other things. So we came in there, got it for, a steal at 1.2 million, but we also brought another $600,000 worth of rehab capital to the deal. So the lesson number one, well, I don't know if that was number one, but lesson number 2 is make sure you're well funded and financed when you go in to do work on a property, because we spent all of those $600,000 and more to do roofs, stucco. You can see the first floor walkways here were redone, parking lots were refinished, and then we actually haven't gone through all the units. I think we've done about 30 or 32 of them, but really stepped them up and have seen tremendous increase in rent and so forth. We're able to get it appraised. I think that was early of 2021 for 2.4 million, so almost more than double what we paid for it. We refinanced, pulled like 70 or 80% of our money out of it. So the cash on cash now is north of 20%. So that kind of works. But there was some moments there where we were like, oh man, what have we done, when we figured out the plumbing was leaking in the concrete slab. So we had to redo plumbing in the soffits and all these other challenges. So there was a couple of hairy moments there, but if you kind of realize that most of the things are not emergency, you just deal with them as they show up, you get the right team in there and you fix them, and usually you come out okay on the other side. So that was that was in 2018, in May 2018. So I started to think a little bit bigger, but I wasn't really taking the necessary action. So then I had this is kind of the setback I mentioned earlier. So I've been a bicycle racer for also 20 plus years. And I used that as my way to escape from, when I felt like I wasn't really living up to my potential from a business standpoint or in a, in my work or whatever. I would just go and ride my bike, and I was like, oh, now at least I've done something that feels like I produced something. Feels like I've satisfied my need to express my desire for physical exercise and so forth. And it really, it exhausted me and so forth. Like, oh, I don't have to think too much about it. Not really maybe potentially living up to my potential. So I was doing this race in Grand Junction, Colorado, just a few weeks after we closed, maybe only a week after we closed this previous deal. There was a terrible crash. Ended up with a lacerated kidney, with some fractures in my back and internal bleeding. I was able to, believe it or not, I was able to walk out of there and get myself to the hospital. And when they asked me when they see what's going on, they put a scope up through my one of my veins to see what was going on. It's like, oh man, you got to go to the ICU. And I was pretty much lying there. I was there for 5 days with internal bleeding, and it was pretty scary. And one of the things, my wife also showed up. She took that picture. And one of the things I kind of realized, I was lying there. It's like, man, what am I doing? I'm 47 years old. I'm chasing glory on the bicycle. This is like, yeah, I don't really need to do that anymore. I've proved that I'm good enough at that. But I was seeking that self-worth through the zero-sum game that I felt like I was playing. It's like, if I won, somebody else lost, and that would make me feel good and so forth. And I realized that wasn't really a way to continue to live. So as I'm lying there on drugs and not feeling very well, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do once I get out of here? How do I need to change to actually feel like I'm adding value, to feel like this is not me in competition with everybody else, to feel like that I'm quote unquote good enough. And really the realization I had was, hey, I need to stop playing small. I need to go beyond fourplexes and 30 plus unit deals. I need to start with a focus on helping other people and creating teams and partnering with amazing people, right? Because it always been, I was like, I'm smart enough. I can figure this out by myself. I don't need anybody else. And why do I need a team? And all these stories I was telling myself, which I later realized that was just not the right way of thinking. So I was in the hospital in the ICU for 5 days. I got out. I was kind of peeing blood for 3 months as my kidney was healing up. But I recovered from it, and I'm fully recovered. So that's definitely a blessing. But the shift for me from going for this zero-sum game to like, I need to really help people. I need to really step into that role of a leader as a coach and other things. So I developed a new purpose for myself, which is to be present and engaged, to create strong, meaningful, and caring relationships with fellow humans so they can discover their true potential in an environment of love, trust, and respect. So that's the purpose I came up with. That's the purpose I try to live on a daily basis, because coming from this standpoint, if I can serve somebody else, if I can help somebody else to see success, I feel so much better, and it's so much rewarding versus me trying to do stuff just to help myself. So that's what I've been focusing on, working on. So what does that mean, right? As I came out, I need to take more action, because the trajectory I was on was not going to get me out of my job in any time soon. It wasn't going to get me to that passive income I decided. It wasn't really going to lead me anywhere very quickly. Maybe over 10 or 20 years, I could have built a portfolio, but I didn't want to wait, right? So it was really time to get serious. So as Noel said, I joined a coaching program with Rockcliffe pretty much when it started, right after that incident there. I also really understood that partnerships were the solution. I've done that one partnership in that 38 unit, but it wasn't really, I was too passive in that thing. I needed to become much more active. I needed to start syndicating deals so I could actually leverage other people's money. I could get into those size of deals that I wanted to do. And the last thing here, is really starting to go to events to start meeting people. It's just the one thing I really is so important for anybody. I'm a self-proclaimed introvert that's been behind a computer for most of my life, and I realized that wasn't going to get me anywhere. That's one of the things with everybody that I work with now. It's like, yeah, you may feel like you can do stuff from behind your computer, but in reality, you need to get out into the world to meet people, connect with brokers and everything else, and that's so important to do that. So what ended up happening then? So in 2019, or after 2018, the incident, recovering and getting the coaching and everything, and starting creating relationships, I was able to start co-sponsoring some deals. And co-sponsoring just meaning coming into a deal, help with some few things like raising some money, doing some underwriting, doing some due diligence, and so forth. So from having, in 2018, having, 40 some, 50 some units, I was able to become a partner on my first syndication in Atlanta in 2012. In 2019, 212 units that we bought for $14 million. And it's currently on a contract to sell for $26 million here, hopefully in November, hopefully we're going to be able to close on that. I did 205 units in Erie, Pennsylvania for $10 million, and then 236 units in Phoenix for 16.7 million. It's probably worth, or we're going to go to market probably early next year to try to sell that one, right? So why did this suddenly happen, right? I didn't go out and find these deals myself and syndicate them myself. I was able to connect with a team or teams that were already doing this or already in that space, and find a way to add value to them. I think that's really the key thing I realized early on. I don't need to do it all myself. I don't even need to do half of it or 25%. If I can do a little bit initially, if I can just get kind of my foot in the door, if you will, start to see what this looks like from the inside, start talking to investors, start having those conversations about what real estate investing really is, that really started moving me forward much quicker. And that deal in Erie, that's with my now partner and good friend, Jason Perro. It's some of you guys already know. I connected with him at Rod's event in early 2019 in Tampa. Connected with him, we just seemed like we jive there, and he had done one deal already. He was going to do a second syndication. I was like, man, is there a way I can help? And one of the things, I didn't just say it's the way I can help. I said, here are some ways I think I can help you, which is one of those key things that I realized that if somebody calls me up and says, hey, Jens, how can I help you? I was like, I don't really know. And now you're putting the burden on me to figure out how you can help me. Instead, figure out what I need based upon what you've observed, and then suggest that this is how you can add value. That's much more valuable to me versus just asking how they can help, because then it becomes that's my burden to figure out how that person can step in and help me in that current situation. So that's what happened in 2019. Again, small ownership percentages, small acquisition fees and so forth, but it was really pivotal to get started. Then, hang on, wrong way, there we go. Then in 20 and 21, we all know what happened in 2020, but we were still able. I flew up to Erie early in, I think it was February, to look at a deal that we were getting on the contract, and it was starting to get a little weird in the airports as people weren't traveling anymore and all that. But we actually managed to do 3 deals. So we did another deal with Jason Perro in Erie for 127 units. And from there, you know, I went from a small percentage to my percentage started increasing because my value started increasing, because I had learned so much more about underwriting and raising capital and understanding all those pieces that goes on behind the scenes. After that 127 unit, we then partnered with some people in Cleveland, Ohio, and did a 104 unit deal there, which was even a bigger eye opener because I got to see all the stuff behind the scenes with the loans, with all that work that went on there. But also my ownership percentage started increasing in that. So there's basically the two sides of that coin, right? You get more ownership, but you get more responsibilities. And it started to feel like a job. Now it wasn't just something you can do on the side. And at that time, I had started transitioning out of my W-2 job, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then we bought another 11 units in Albuquerque, actually, because it was too good of a deal to pass up on. So 242 units during the pandemic, during all these crazy times, right? Then in 2021, you know, we've accelerated even more. So we've closed 6 deals so far, some with Jason, some with some other partners. I think it's 411 units we've done so far this year. And we have another, you know, 3 deals under contract. I think that's another 150 plus units that we're working on. But now this is a full-time job now. I mean, I literally spend my whole week working on syndicating deals, asset management, and all the things that go kind of on in the background there. But the big thing too, you know, I was able to leave my W-2 job in April of 2021, which was much quicker than I had anticipated. And I also realized that a lot of people was like, oh, I got to hold on to my W-2 job because it's safe and all this. When in reality, it really is, you know, there's an opportunity cost by staying there, because as I was starting to transition, I was able to work in part-time for a while. And that really gave me the ability to spend more time on the syndications, the ability to actually get more involved, get higher ownership shares and so forth. So that was really a big step, able to leave. I was like, I'm gonna have all this time, but in reality, I I still work a lot, but by my own choosing, but with people I enjoy working with, and also on things that are interesting to me versus my employer's you know, demands on me. I also became, actually, let me do that. Okay, so how is this all possible, right? Because I don't want to sound like this guy who just went and did all this stuff through magic or anything, any special skills. I didn't really have any special skills coming into real estate. Well, as I mentioned, I didn't know anything about real estate investing 5 years ago, but I did know I had the clarity and the vision that I wanted to go bigger. I developed that after my injury. I developed that desire to really go to the next level, and also wanted to be an investor. Some people like to buy smaller properties and be, you know, kind of owner operator. That's not really, that doesn't suit my style very well. I own some properties that I was kind of self-managing, and I don't like it. I want to be an investor. I want to be, you know, behind the scenes, working on the business, figuring out what's the next step we can take to grow and systematize and be much more effective and efficient. But I also wanted to help others succeed. As I mentioned, that zero-sum game wasn't working for me anymore, right? So how can I partner with people and actually help them do their first or second deal and help them kind of take that to the next level? And I also wanted to, you know, so develop the clarity and vision, courage as well. I really, you know, started to pursue my goals relentlessly. I would talk to anybody who would stand still long enough that what I was doing. Some people were interested, some people weren't. That's okay. I wasn't afraid and hesitant to talk about what I did, because if I couldn't share this stuff with other people, I couldn't get people to help me realize these dreams. I couldn't get investors. I couldn't get partners and so forth. And then also I figured out how I can help people and what value I can add. And that's another key thing. When you come from a W-2 job or another career, whatever you're really good at there, make sure you use that in real estate. It's not a matter of reinventing everything you know. No, you already have some amazing skills. You know, are you good at property management, project management? Are you good at math and spreadsheets? Are you good at talking to people and influencing people? Are you good at, you know, raising money, which you may not have that skill, but make sure you use whatever you've learned in your past career and use that, paying that forward. I'm doing a lot of the back end IT stuff because that's what I used to do, right? Creating systems and spreadsheets and budgets and all that stuff because I was good at that. And or maybe meeting we have, I'm the guy who kind of keep the meeting progressing and making sure people don't go off the deep end and on various discussions because I was a manager at my job and I used to manage some people. So that's another set of skills that I have. So use those skills going forward. Then finally, productivity. I showed I can deliver any deal we've gotten on a contract we've been able to close. So that's another key thing. But I also started mentoring and training because I realized that I really enjoyed being able to help people take it to the next level. So I had gotten a tremendous amount of value out of my coaches and my mentors. So I was like, man, I need to pay this forward. I always enjoyed training. I taught in college for a while and other things, but so I started by doing that. I started, focusing on the how. How do you underwrite the deal? How do you do due diligence? How do you connect with brokers? All those things. But I also realized that people get stuck on the why. Why are they moving towards this new thing? And if people don't have a strong enough why, when things get difficult, they tend to stop. So I heard this, and I think, Noel, you may remember this from Michael Blanc's conference. They talk about 3 levels of why that we have. So the first one, I want to stop. I want the pain to stop. So I want the W-2 job to stop because it's painful. I want my lack of financial abundance to stop, whatever. That's a good motivator, but as soon as you get beyond that motivator stops, that why stops because it's no longer a driver. We also quite often motivated by freedom, material wealth, money, whatever. That's certainly also a strong motivator. But once we reach a certain level of material wealth, the next $100,000, $1 million doesn't really materially improve our lives, right? So it's a good motivator, and I think a lot of people continue to be focused and motivated from that. But in reality, that just becomes a search for that the next rush of earning money or whatever that may be. And not to negate that or anything that's very important, but I also feel like that's not a motivator that's going to continue to push us forward for the rest of our lives, right? So the last why is really, what is the impact? What is the lasting impact or legacy that you have on the world? And that's the thing that I feel will continue to motivate and push us forward, because we can always do more. There's always more people to help. There's always more people to influence. We can always do more there. And we can find bigger goals or bigger, stronger whys that can continue to move us forward there. So as I'm progressing through these 3, the pain has stopped both physically and mentally from the job and from the bike crash. I want something. Well, I have I have an amazing house here in Santa Fe, and I'm not lacking for money of that. So that's not a super motivator for me anymore. No, it's really this impact on the world. And I had various ideas as I was trying to figure out what that impact should be. And I really settled back on this idea. If I can help people on an individual level to improve their lives through better relationships with their families, better productivity at work, the ability to figure out what that next level is for them so they can start doing real estate deals or something else and move out of that. That is so rewarding, especially when it comes down to, it's great when somebody gets a deal, that's awesome. But if somebody improves their relationship, if somebody becomes better at dealing with their fears and their angers and anything psychological that's going on, that is so rewarding. And I've just seen amazing things happening. It's not, I won't say it's because of me. I just think because people, they are at that place in their life, they want to start making changes. They just need a little push, a little motivation, a little bit of insight, and then they start taking amazing actions, So I've gotten feedback around people like, oh man, I have a better relationship with my wife. My kids actually will talk to me, we've been traveling more, we're doing, just all these amazing things. So as I started seeing that, I decided to get certified as a coach, because I hired my own high performance coach in early 2000. So I was so impressed with this program. So I decided to get my own certification. So I got that in, I think it was in November or December last year. So it's been about a year now. And I've coached, I think like 30 or 40 people in the last year. And it's been amazing. And just that growth. And that's really what drives me every day. It's like, yeah, it's cool to do another deal, but helping somebody reach happiness and success in their own life is so much more rewarding for me right now. So what's next for me? Well, I'm planning an event, and Tom knows about that. So one of the key things that I mentioned and talked about is a lot of us try to do things in isolation. And I've seen you guys, you got a great team, so maybe not apply as much to you, but I see a lot of my clients, they're like, oh, I can figure this out by myself. And I tell them, yes, but you're going to run into a lot of limitations very early on, and you're not going to get very far if you're not willing to partner with people to figure out what help you need and really bring that to life and connect with the right people. So that's going to be the premise of this event. It's going to be able for people to come together to mastermind, to create partnerships, to really get involved with other people. And also we want to make it much more actionable. So instead of coming to an event where you look at somebody talking on the screen about how many deals they've done or what the economy is going to do, this is actually going to include stuff like, well, how do we actually underwrite a deal? How do we manage asset management? What does it take to get an agency loan, or what is true property management? What is involved in that, and so forth. So that's what we're working on. Hopefully, it will be March of next year. I think we're settling on Denver, Colorado is going to be the destination. So hopefully, I can see some of you guys there. Continue to work, amazing people and buy apartment buildings. We keep getting deals that come our way, and we underwrite them, and if they make sense, we move forward, and then continue to coach high performers to reach their goals. So that's, I think, that's the end of my presentation. I think I did it in about 30-minute notes you were asking for. So if anybody wants to reach out, my email is there, my phone number is there, my website is opendoorscapital.com. So that's what I had to share. I'm happy to take any questions or any feedback or anything you guys want to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jens. Really appreciate it. That's awesome stuff. We got a few questions here dropped in the chat, but we'll go ahead and just open up. People can unmute and ask the questions.
Yeah, Jens. So thanks so much. And it's awesome hearing kind of your testimony and everything on that. Very cool. And I know a lot of cool things coming up. On your new purpose that you kind of explained there, I wrote in here, is this kind of what keeps you going? I know you mentioned a couple different things, helping other people, stuff like that. Coaching is a big motivator for you. Is that kind of something that you reflect on every day, that you refer to maybe once a week? Do you have it posted somewhere as a reminder to kind of keep you going?
Well, I love that question, Tom. So, here's my journal, and one of my questions I ask every day is, who can I help today? And actually, I put in here, I can help the J-Core team today by being on this. so I do reflect on it on a regular basis, right? And that's the first, after my journal, that's one of the first questions. I was like, okay, who is important to me to try to add some value to today, right? And, is it a coaching client? Is it a partner? Just finding a way to really put that to the forefront of my mind, right? And I want to, I truly want to add value to people because I enjoy helping people and enjoy other people succeed. And I realize that if I, that I, in my small way, I can help somebody see some success in whatever business or whatever they're trying to achieve. So it does, I do think about it every day.
Really awesome.
Very cool.
Good stuff. Yeah, no, we appreciate you being a guest, and I'm glad we could offer the opportunity for you as well. It's part of how this business works. It's
I see.
give and get, and that exchange of value. It's awesome. So
And I just,
then we
I
had a
do
couple
see,
others. I think Miles had asked. Oh, go ahead.
no, that was the question. I'll answer that. So what was your roles on those teams? I think Miles' question was. Yeah, so early on, like some of those earlier deals, my role was
What
pretty minimal.
roles did you play in those first?
Okay, so I think I talked over you, maybe no, but anyway, so the role on those teams early on they're very small in the first couple of ones. I helped with some underwriting, do some due diligence, and then raising some capital, right? So it wasn't very much. I raised a little bit of money, but it got my kind of foot in the door, if you will, right? So in the first, those 2 or 3 deals was maybe minimal, but then as it started to grow, right, I would put earnest money up. I would get very much into all the financial due diligence because that's something you can do remotely. Project out the what the projections for the income and the returns, and also physical due diligence. I mean, I walked hundreds and hundreds of apartment units, so I would go on site and take pictures and document the process and actually figuring out what needed to be done there. So those are some of the key roles. Now it's really, I mean, I'm usually the guy who gets to underwrite and do all the initial due diligence on it. And then I get to kind of keep the process moving forward because I'm pretty organized and in that manner. And I'm raising a lot of money too. So that's, just because you feel like you're an introvert doesn't mean you can't raise money, because as long as you can connect with people on a one-to-one level, that's where those connections are. And everybody's like, how do you find investors? Well, you find them one-to-one by having one-to-one conversations with people. So really key.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. That one-to-one relationship. Abe and I have been chatting on the side. We chatted a while back, and I just admitted, as I text him and he goes, "I'm sorry, who is this?" So Abe, it's me. But so you have keeping those, it's a challenge for some of us, because I think, Jens, like you, I'm a bit introverted. I could sit all day, have a cup of coffee, go out on my bike, and just be by myself and kind of do my own thing. But challenging yourself to really develop those relationships, it takes work. And so I think that's important, really important what you said. And I think some people, it comes naturally. Some people can do it all day long and they feed off of that. But being able to recognize too, saying, hey, you know what, maybe it's a draining thing for you to keep up those conversations. And by the end of the day, you go home at an event, you go home and you're just through. You lay down on the bed after you're out, at the meetups and everything else. So recognizing it, but being genuine about it and stretching yourself is a great skill to constantly sharpen. So, and it does, it helps you. So
yeah, Tom, and I think I'm also probably most comfortable just sitting behind my computer and going bike riding or whatever by myself, right? I also realize that's not going to get me to where I want to
exactly.
go, right? So, and it's a skill. It's a skill that can be trained. So there's a book here called The Introvert Edge. Excellent book about how do we, if we are more on the introvert end of things, how do we connect with people authentically and not feel thrown off by small talk and everything else, right? So something I have to learn, but it's still trainable. And one of the things, as I feel like, if we can talk detailed enough about what's going on, about a deal and why it makes sense and all those things we've thought about. So while somebody that's more extroverted may be able to get the initial connection, they may not have all the kind of deep down knowledge that's going to maybe convince or influence somebody to become an investor, right? So I think we have some skills, us who call ourselves introverts, that we can actually use to our advantage in many cases.
Hey, Jens, thank you. I feel like, am I pronouncing that right, Jens?
Jens, yeah,
Okay, Jens, more of a
Yeah.
Scandinavian background,
that's
maybe.
right.
Okay. Yeah, I resonate with that, with all your comments about being introverted, and there's a psychological aspect of that as I take my psychology major currently. How much of you mentioned mentorship, and you also mentioned getting your coaching certification. How much of that is a service that somebody pays for to get coaching from you, and how much do you actually mentor, like somebody, you know, that's younger, bring them under your wing, that say, hey, this kid's got potential, something like that? So do you mentor, or do you sell your service more, coaching, or both?
I mean, it's definitely a business, right? I mean, I do sell my coaching as a way to generate income for sure, right? I've certainly mentored people. You know, I host a meetup here in Santa Fe, right? And there's people there that I connect with and say, okay, you want to get into this? Let's talk about it, right? I don't have a ton of time to spend, hours every week doing it, but it's something that I have done. And even people that I've coached, they have turned into partners, and that has gone beyond that initial kind of coaching relationship. But it is a business. There's no question asked there either.
Awesome, Miguel. Thanks for jumping in on that. Great question. So there's a couple other things here. One, James asked you. He's asking you about the event. James, you can ask that question and expound on it if you want. You don't need me to talk for you.
It's a simple question. Is it a in-person event or a virtual event?
No, if we want it to be in person, it's not going to work being virtual. So hopefully you can make it now. You're a little bit closer than you were a year ago. So no, we want to make it in person. We want to make it, because I think that's another thing. Some people are intimidated by going to an event that has 500 people there. So we want to try to keep it at a more intimate level and really focus on creating those connections, right? Instead of running around the hallways and get 50 business cards, if we can come back with 2 or 3 or 4 substantial relationships, that's going to be so much more impactful than having 50 business cards and we don't remember who we talked to or why.
So how do we get an invite?
Well, you will once we get it figured out. The format, the location, the cost, and everything. So stay tuned. We'll make sure you get to know. You hear about it.
So Jens, on that, what, if you want to share with people kind of a thought process and how this event would be really different. I mean, I know talking about the relationship building, but what are some different things that you feel that are really important that you can bring to the table during an event like this that's different than all these other events that people go to?
Yes, I mean, there's, most events have this format of there's a stage, there's rows and rows of chairs, and there's somebody or multiple people presenting on the stage, which can be interesting, but it's not always very actionable in the sense like, oh, cool, I learned a little bit more about underwriting. But it's probably not deep enough that we really can take that home and use it. Or if somebody talks about, how to get your first loan or how to choose and market and all those things, but they don't seem to be very actionable. They're high level, and I feel that does people a disservice. So we want to make it more actionable. It's like, okay, well, as you spend an hour or 2 on deep dive in underwriting, deep dive underwriting and deep dive asset management. Nobody talks about asset management, which is probably the most complicated thing that we do after we play any deal. So we want to make it actionable and really focus on that training aspect of it. I also see that they run into the hallway to network because that's what people enjoy, and that's more interesting than maybe sitting there watching somebody talk about something nobody's interested in. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the hallway, but we're going to bring that networking back into the room. So we're going to have, smaller tables where people can sit down and actually, and we'll facilitate that. We'll facilitate like small mastermind groups or small networking events or sessions, even some goal plannings and other things, vision creation, but actually have it in there and make sure people can work together and get to know each other. And maybe they realize, well, here's my new partners for the next deal I'm going to do, right? Of course, there will be some stuff on the stage too, but it's going to be, that's going to be more focused on mindset and the coaching aspect of it. So we can use that as well. So it's really a combination of masterminding, coaching, training, and creating and great networking. So that's the vision I have around this event.
So you're saying not so broad and shallow, but more narrow and deep.
That's the plan, yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Abe, you want to throw your question out there?
Hey, Jens, it's so great to meet you. I was actually on one of Rod Cleef's boot camps about a year ago, and I added everybody from the panel. I added Colby and Mandy and a bunch of other people, and I added you as well, and you're one of the only 2 people that actually responded to me. So I appreciate that. Thanks. So this is it's a 2-part thing. Everybody here knows I can be long-winded, so I want to give a preface. It's going to be 60 seconds. Hold me to it, and then I've got a follow-up for a question. Right. So right now we have a deal in a sub-tertiary market, population 120,000. It's 4 assets, total of 50 units. Purchase price is 1.51 million, and vacancy is 70%, right? But just the units that we already have right now, yes, Miles, just the cash flow that we have right now already covers debt service and expenses. The total amount of square footage on the entire thing is something like 45 to 50,000 square feet. We have to renovate something like 34,000 of it. Average per square foot's like $1.24. I'm not a numbers guy. I'm not a numbers guy, but I'm at this thing, right? So ARV after like $1 million capex, 1.5 purchase price is somewhere. The 8 cap, it's like 4 million. 6 cap, it's like 5 million, right? So the thing is, this is one of our first heavy lifts. It is our first heavy lift. We know nothing about doing this level of renovation. We brought in a sponsor. Noel knows him. I know you know him, Jens. He's part of Rod Cleef's group, but for lack of not name dropping, I'm not going to say it right here. But so it's a big deal. And the question that I have now, with that 1-minute preface, hopefully I did good on 1 minute. I am not an introvert, if you can't tell. So, so my question here is, you yourself, we all know how much of a pain in the ass this deal could end up being. It could end up being a massive drain. It could end up being a year of hell. And yes, like conservatively, we'll be able to cash out $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 for our first large project. Seems like a pretty good deal, right? So putting the deal aside, right? My question is, everyone's got this deal. I know they do. We're willing to jump in because it's hairy. We know we're just starting, and it's going to be even harder because we're just starting, but nobody else wants to touch it, right? The experienced guys who have done the rehabs, it's obviously still on the market for a reason, unless we just found a market that is a gem and nobody knows about yet, like Shreveport 2 years ago, right? Anyway, so we're looking at this thing, and so we are trying to. My question at the end of the day, when I asked, do I really want to do this? My answer is yes. even if it's going to end up being a massive waste of time, even if I'm going to put way too much time into it, even if we're orchestrating way too much, I know that on paper, there's almost no, even if we royally completely f it up, just completely ruin it, we're still not going to lose money. We'll lose a lot of time. We'll lose a lot of whatever else, right? Thank you, Miles. So my question here is, everyone's got that deal, right? So is there a deal? Is there an example you can walk us through? Tell me why I shouldn't do this. I'll still probably try to do it because it's still got big upside. But like, as I know that there's a deal probably in the back of your head where you look back now and you're like, no way would I ever do that again. I messed it up. It's exactly this story right here. And so give me some wisdom as I'm going to go and do this anyway. I would just really like to learn. I would really like to learn what the points were that you would have learned from, that you would have changed, how you would have gone into it, and what the most challenging part was, and what the biggest lesson was too, because that tuition is priceless, right? So thank you.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
really good to meet you.
I appreciate the question. So there's a whole bunch of things here to talk about. So I think the closest that comes to it is this 38 unit that we had, which was fairly occupied, and we came in with a lot of money. We underestimated the amount of work. We underestimated the amount of challenges we were going to have. We underestimated the amount of the costs and everything else. So even with a experienced guy who lived in that city, we had more challenges than we expected. We came out okay on the other end because we were able to kind of manage that. I think the risk, if you say it's only 30% occupied in a city, so the question is, who's going to be boots on the ground that's going to keep a close eye on what's going on there? Because are you able to go there every week?
I'm moving there with my girlfriend.
Okay. So you have that, right? So the thing is, you are underwriting with how much money it's going to cost to do this rehab. How confident are you in that, right? Because if you're estimating 20 grand a unit and it becomes 30 or whatever your numbers are, that can be you could run out of money and shit, half the units are still left to be done. But especially now when there's all these supply issues and labor prep problems and everything, that could be a huge challenge, right? And you say,
we overestimated by like 25%. I'm sorry to interrupt. Just like as you're saying this, like I'm checking my head. So we've estimated $1 million in rehab for the full thing. Realistically, it's probably going to be 750 to 8, but we even bumped it up 20% almost, which apparently is actually pretty conservative estimation right now. So
yeah. So I mean, can you find good contractors to do that work, right? That's going to be a challenge. And can you control your cost and your timelines? That's going to be your biggest challenge there for sure. I don't know what kind of debt you're going to be able to get at 30% occupied. I mean, that's the other. Are you buying it cash, or how are you going to get it?
Purchase price 1.51. We just approached a lender, and we're literally in the next 48 hours, we are dive bombing their entire list. We've gotten lending in this area before. Well, not we, but the sponsor that we brought on. And I'll message you his name afterward. He has a track record lending with this person. We should be getting 2-year bridge, interest only, with hopefully $1 million construction loan on top.
Yeah. So the other risk you take there, I mean, so I'm not focusing on risk here. Bridge debt, that's great. It's amazing, but you have to perform on bridge debt. And I just went through an $11 million bridge debt deal. So it doesn't feel good.
That's what I'd like to hear about. I want to hear about your story. I didn't mean to keep talking about mine, but you kept talking about ours, which is great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
We closed 5 or 6 weeks ago, but as we were going through the loan, the details on that loan, so you have to perform. Like if you're saying you're going to do all the units, my understanding, you have to do all the units, otherwise you're not conforming to the loan documents, right? You got to make sure you figure it out. And sometimes these non-recourse bridge loans will become recourse for all kinds of reasons, right? So while that may look like it's non-recourse, but if you screw up, it can become recourse, it can become a big challenge, right? So bridge loans are great, but you have to understand what you're getting yourself into. So we spent literally $50,000 on legal fees to figure out what we're getting ourselves into there and that $12 million deal, right? Again, if you feel like you can prove that you can spend this money, you can renovate them, you can get the rent, you can lease them out, add that new rent, and you can stay on that track. I mean, it can be that, a lot of money can be made in these ways, but given you guys are not super experienced, you need to make sure, you have a good contractor that's going to do this work, and your KP, maybe he can help too, whatever. But, I'm not, there's a lot of risk there. You just have to be aware of that risk. And if that makes sense.
Sure. 100%. So one super fast follow-up for anybody that's timing me. So other than the Santa Fe deal, are there any other deals that you've done? It was Santa Fe, right?
Albuquerque.
38 unit. I'm sorry. Are there any other deals that you regret not necessarily doing, but just because it's risk, right? You're either going to lose money or you'll lose time. I'm more interested in asking about a deal that you lost time in, where you were like, this was not worth it. This was not worth, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. So on paper, it still looked like a great deal. It still looked like it was worth your time. But at the end of the day, you go back and you look and you look at that deal, and now if somebody put it on your desk, you'd say, no shot, not interested, even if it pencils out, just because of something that you didn't really care for. Does that make sense? Does that?
Yeah, no, and I don't care for the type of deals that you're planning to do. That's just my nature of it. I want to see something that's a little bit more proven before I would get into it. Although we are doing that bridge loan, the 187 unit deal we're doing, we are taking it from here to here in terms of quality and tenants and everything else. It's still fully occupied, but we are going to move it from, C to B minus or whatever we can push there, right? I'm not doing that work. I'm doing some of all the other stuff. So I guess in order to answer that question around your time, so depending on your ownership, depending on the structure, if you look, okay, you turn it in 3 years, you sell it for $1 million more than you put into it. How much money are you going to get at the end of the day? And if you divide that out by the number of hours, are you working for $10 an hour or $100 an hour over the next 2 or 3 years, right? That's the question you have to ask yourself. And I realized early on, I had a mobile home park that I would go and freaking paint some of the mobile homes. Like, what am I doing? That's insane, right? I got away from doing that. And I would rather say, you guys do it, you guys take care of it. But you have to look at that. And I'm also looking at my asset management so I'm doing asset management now too. We get a fee for that. I'm like, okay, how much do I make every month on asset management? How much time am I spending? Is this worth my time? And if not, how can I outsource it? How can I get somebody else to do this work that can give me some of my time? Because there's opportunity cost in anything you do, right? So
Thank you.
Does it make sense?
I could literally keep asking a million questions, so I'm gonna shut up until literally no one else is interested, or until you're like, all right, I'm about to go, and then I'm gonna ask one more.
No, I think that's great. And, I'm just going to kind of piggyback off of that, Jens. When you see a deal and you see it really hitting a tough spot where it can cause some stress on the team, how do you guys as a team push through that? You've led some teams, you've been a team leader in the past. How do you keep the team focused and motivated so they don't get discouraged?
Yeah, so I'll talk about the experiences I had. for example, I'll go back to the 38 unit because that's probably the most challenging deal from both one of my partners that I had, and it wasn't really involved. So he was very nervous about what was going on. He had a lot of questions. He didn't have any control, and that led him feeling like he shouldn't have been in it. That created stress on me because I had some control, but not as much, right? So the way I dealt with that was I would just share everything. I was like, every month I would say, here's the good, here's the bad, here's the ugly, and just have an open communication. So always let people know what's going on, right? And one of my managers once said that bad news does not improve with age. So just tell it as it is, as soon as you know it. But also say, hey, this is what happened. We have a plan. Don't just say, well, shit, this stuff happened. We don't know what to do. That's not gonna create a lot of confidence in your people. I mean, case in point, that unit in that property in Phoenix, we had a fire. I think it was 35 units. Something like that, burned. There's arson. Somebody actually lit it on fire. A disgruntled tenant burned, all these units down. That's not a fun call to have with your investors that this stuff happened. But then also we are adults and we realize, oh, this stuff will happen. We got the insurance company involved. Nobody was hurt, so we were able to relocate everybody or resettle everybody, and we just dealt with it one problem at a time and moving forward, right? So how do you prevent your team from getting discouraged? I mean, you have as a leader, you set the vision and said, hey, it's difficult now, but once we get this plan implemented, here are the reasons, here are the rewards down the road. This is the reason why we're doing this. This is still better than being in your W-2 job, sitting at a desk working for somebody else, right? And then just say, hey, stuff will happen. We'll figure it out. I mean, there's always going to be challenges, but most people take it, we don't go into this business without a certain level of fortitude and ability to deal with challenges, because then we should probably pick something that's a little bit easier to do, right? So, and also, our team are partners, so it's in everybody's best interest to do a good job, because then your reward at the end of the day is going to be higher.
Yeah, it's that's awesome. Thank you very much. Well, on that, I know I want to value everybody's time. We've been sitting on here for an hour and 7 minutes now. We've had a couple people drop off, but I just want to continue to go through. Miguel, hey, thanks so much for your comments and your questions. They're awesome. Jeffrey, Bert, Casey, Rosendo, and Emily, love to open the floor to you guys really quick to see if you guys have any other questions, anything to add. If you want to reach out to Jens or any of our team, we'd love to hear from you. But if you guys have any questions or comments, please let us know.
Well, good evening, everybody. I don't have any questions right now. I'm just taking in the information and learning just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Jeffrey, is it Jeffrey or Joffrey?
Well, it's Joffrey, but because people have difficulty understanding that, I just say Jeff.
Jeff, fair enough. Jeffrey Joffrey. There we go.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Jersey City, New Jersey.
Very good. So what do you do down there? How long have you been involved in multifamily? And love to hear about you.
Since January, and I'm a general contractor.
Very nice. What got you into it?
Working for investors for the past 6-7 years, and just listening to them and how much they love it. And I just started listening to podcasts, reading books, and started following a couple of people, found Rod, and here I am.
Awesome. So out of, things that you've heard tonight, things from Jens, is there anything that kind of stuck out to you that you kind of resonate with?
Well, I like in the fact in the beginning how he started out. I think it was 2 fourplexes or 1 fourplex, and the next year he moved up the third year. So I like the fact that he started out small and grew into what he became today.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, it's true. And I think a lot of people see people and they're like, oh, you have this big,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say conglomerate, but you have this, 1,300 units, whatever else. And you just think they're on a different level, but a little bit at a time and building
Yeah.
that team, it adds up.
Yes, and I'm gonna be honest. In the beginning, I thought that way. I used to say, "Wow, I can't be like this guy." But then the more people I talk to, everybody says the same thing. Or I started out with one single family, or I started out with a duplex, or it's always they started out with something simple, and also the fact that he said the connections. He talked to one person at a time to form a connection. So that's what I've been doing over the past couple of months, just talking to one person at a time, getting to know people, getting to understand the business, and all the things basically he did, I guess I'm doing now to get the way he's at.
Yeah. That's awesome. And that's one of the biggest reasons that we want to do this meetup is so people can really connect and identify with people and how they got started and how they move forward. So that's awesome.
Yes.
And if I could add a comment there, thanks, Jeff. I really appreciate it. We have a tendency, and I've learned that too, to put people on pedestals and think
Yes.
that they're better, smarter, whatever than we are.
Yes.
In reality, that's never the case. They're just maybe a couple of steps ahead because they start a little bit early or whatever it may be, right? So,
Yes.
and everybody's human. Everybody has the same insecurities and doubts and fears that everybody else has, and we just overcome them and move forward, right? So, with the right action, there's no reason why you can't get much further than any of us have. So,
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, Joffrey. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hey, Bert, I saw that you turned on your camera. Love to hear from you, where you're at, and what do you got going on?
Sure. I live in San Antonio, and I'm a real estate broker here in Texas. And I was invited by Noel. Thank you, Noel, for the invitation. I'm certainly grateful for that. And he and I are acquainted. I believe that that you guys are partners, right? Tom is your partner, right, Noel?
That's right. Yeah, Tom, James, and Miles all here.
Okay,
all
right.
partners, yeah.
So I'm your neighbor, you guys' neighbor in Killeen.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I own a building down the street from
Oh yeah. We were talking about you last night.
Oh geez, is that why my ears are
Nothing
burning?
good. Nothing good.
Yeah. So thank you for your service, gentlemen. For sure. I really appreciate that. I was raised by a Green Beret myself. So in the single family space where I typically operate in my real estate practice, it's always a pleasure working with former and current military members. So thank you for that. But that's really my connection to multifamily. It's just, it's my first building, and it's been an interesting ride, and not without its challenges, what with plumbing issues and so forth, like Jens was talking about, and so that kind of, but a lot of what you had to say, Jens, did resonate with me. I was diagnosed with the chronic illness about 13 years ago. The time I've been a guest and an overnight guest in the hospital is also kind of gives you time to reflect and, just kind of think about, the future. Right. And so that resonated with me. I'm so glad to know that you're back on your bike. I cycle every day myself as well, like you gentlemen do. And so that's, certainly inspiring for me to hear that you've gotten back on the bike again. And I've had dislocated shoulders and that kind of thing, bike falls, so it happens, right? I mean, it's just part of being
Nature of the beast.
But, yeah. So, but I love to hear that, Jens, that you do give back, to the community, and that you had come from an abundance mentality, and that says a lot about you and your personality and your character. So, thank you for that, and I really appreciate again the invitation to be here, and thank you for speaking to us. I'd love a chance to maybe attend this event next year when you guys decide to organize that. I'll shoot you an email with my contact information if you can just keep me on an email list.
Sounds good, Bert. Thank you.
Thank you, John and Emily.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome, Bert. Thanks so much. So Abe, I know that you're on there. You got to chat a little bit, but did you tell everyone who you are and where you're at? Can't hear you.
How about now?
There we go.
Yeah. I got this as a birthday gift, and when you put the mic up, it mutes it automatically. It's like there's a cutoff in the mic. I'm a gamer somewhat, like very casually, but in the 2 hours a night that I get to myself. But I think almost everybody here already knows my story. I guess there's a couple people that know. Have you got a timer? Do you want to stopwatch me? Stopwatch me. Oh, you literally have one behind your head. How many minutes do I have? Okay, so my name's Abe. My dad was in the Army. I was in the Navy. I've never lived in a state longer than 5 years in my entire life. I joined the Navy when I was 17 years old, got into real estate at 18 in Hawaii, bought my first condo. By the time I turned 19, I was actually on a flight on my way to Afghanistan. When I had the O4 next to me notarize my paperwork. And so I got back from Afghanistan, all my deployment money. I wasted it on a rehab that I shouldn't have been inside of. I was in contract on like 5 different deals, got overextended. I made and lost $1 million that year. And I ran away with my tail between my legs for like 6 to 7 years. But I found out that I'm a sales dog. So I got into door-to-door sales. Somewhere in there, I actually have my real estate license on Long Island, New York. Joffrey, shout out. I know you're from Jersey, but hey. So got my real estate license and then decided that I didn't want to deal with the people that didn't like the pink flex and the granite countertop. So I fucked that off, realized I didn't want to be a real estate agent. And then I got into sales. I did door-to-door sales, ran a team of people on 100% commission based for 2 years. And during that time, met my girlfriend. We became corporate recruiters in Manhattan, made a shitload of money, and then fucked that company off, moved to Costa Rica, packed a backpack, sold everything we had. And when COVID started to hit, we lost a bunch of money. We had $100,000 in billings that didn't go through. And I said, the whole reason why I'm doing any of this is to make money to get back into real estate, because all I knew was doing it alone. And then I said, all right, I guess I need to partner up with people. And then I figured it out and met a guy who had 500 units down here in Hampton Roads. And then I moved down here, and the rest is history. I've gone through a few different partnerships, and now I built a team.
Good
Yes.
stuff. And that is
154. 154. Let's go.
That's not bad, man. I'm going to round it up to a cool 2 minutes on that one, but that's pretty solid. So
that was a lot of info in 2 minutes. Very nice.
That's cool. That's cool. Hey, I just want to encourage you guys too, while you're on here. And if you want to share your information, please sort it in the chat box. And Jens, I believe you put your information in there earlier, correct?
Yes, I put it in the chat
Okay.
there. So yeah, please reach out if you want to get on my list to send me an email.
Excellent. And I know we do have a quite a small group tonight. So I just want, Miguel, I know that you were on here earlier. Do you want to kind of let people know exactly who you are? You can take the full 2 minutes if you want it. I won't have to put you on a timer, but let us know who you are.
Yeah, Tom. I don't know. I always struggle with the personal side. Anyways, when I was 18, my mom said I could do anything I wanted, but not at her house. So I left. Was in the Army for 24 years, right after graduation. So within a couple months, I was basic training. 24 years military. Did enlisted for about 10. Then I transitioned to doing helicopter pilot for the last few years of it. The war and all that stuff, just like you guys on here, on and off, right? Training. I've always been investing. So it's about investing. I've always been passive with portfolios, always max out IRAs and all that. No debt other than my mortgage. So I've been doing okay, but just okay is kind of like a pain point for me. So I started reading books, read a lot of books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right at the end, talks about this multifamily stuff, found Rockcliffe, Noel, and team. And so I'm just now starting out, trying to put the little bit that I have in cash somewhere. But I think that's not the way to go. The way to go is kind of just join the team and get started. I do have fairly good income. I got, what do they call it? Anyways,
Golden handcuffs.
What's that?
Golden handcuffs.
Golden handcuffs is, I guess that's what you call it. Golden handcuffs. I got, disposable income at the end of the month, right? But it's one of those things, like, it's not fulfilling. I've always been a hard worker, never had issues with promotion. The golden handcuffs are there, and it's really lucrative, being in consulting, working for one of the big four consulting firms. But I want more. It's almost out of boredom, but then the long term is generational wealth for me. Is generational wealth. Not like most everybody. We don't. I wasn't born with a silver spoon, but I want that. I want to leave that, right? I want to leave that. And if they blow it off in a couple of years, so what? As long as I live it. So that's kind of my goal, my long-term goals. I got the Black Book Journal, gratitude, how can I help and all that. I do mentor, mostly transitioning veterans, because veterans are like, oh, what do I do when I get out? So I do that. Haven't started any first service or anything like that. Doesn't interest me. I always just kind of want to, hey, if you want help, I'll help you what I can. But anyways, that's how I'm getting into it. Real estate investment trust. I've been passive in that, and I get dividends quarterly. But I want that growth to kind of leave my financial goal of leaving generational wealth. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at, just learning still.
Hey, that's awesome. We are all still learning. And, a lot of us have been in the real estate realm at different times. And Jens, I mean, you've been doing it for, several years. You ever stop learning?
No.
Yep.
If
we're doing it right.
The more I learn, the more I realize I don't know anything. So
But don't let that hold you from action, right? That's still, we gotta take action to that's where the best learning comes, I feel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jake
sometimes
and
you gotta-
Gino did a book. Sorry, no, I just got to throw this in. Jake and Gino, I don't know if you guys have ever read it, but it's called The Honeybee. And they went in there, a great little book, quick read, but he said one of the best things, for hitting a tough spot or whatever is just taking action, not sitting still, not scratching your head, wondering why, but take a step of action. And it's just going to keep you going. So anyways, Rosendo, did I say that right? Rosendo might just be listening in. Casey, are you there?
I am. Good evening.
How you doing, man? Good to see you back in here. Love to hear about you and give us an update. What's going on?
Not much to update. Basically, just still trying to get traction on finding some deals. It's been really working hard at networking, trying to learn the underwriting process, and trying to work toward my goal of financial freedom as well for my family, so I can be able to spend more time with them in the next 3 to 5 years. So trying to continue to work on that and just continue to learn, baby steps, reading books, listening to podcasts, whatever I can get my eyes and hands and ears on to learn and grow and, continue to work hard and smart.
Awesome. And, I just want to encourage all you guys. Thanks, Casey, very much for sharing that. And, again, that's another reason why we do this, to keep each other accountable, keep each other sharp, staying plugged in. If we try to go off on our own, like anything, you're going to kind of grow cold. It's just a natural course. But, you know, we've had a couple of us had a chance to chat with Jens different levels at different times. And I know he does a coaching program. You know, we just, you know, we think highly of him, and we know that his coaching program, that one-on-one, can do nothing but, you know, help people grow. So there's no financial bonus for me on that. I'm just saying, it's true. So if you guys ever feel like you want to grow a little bit, you know, reach out to him, and I'm sure he can help you out. So, but we are dwindling down. People have been popping off. Like I said, small crowd tonight, but Jens, any final words? We just want to thank you for coming on tonight.
No, I mean, it's all about taking action, getting clarity of what you want, and then take action. And hopefully, you know, Rod has his boot camp in December in Orlando. I'm going to be there, so hopefully I'll see a handful of you guys there.
Yeah, you'll see 3 of the J Core team there.
Yeah, Miles is going to skip out. He's making excuses.
I'll be there.
Awesome.
I was hoping to go to the. I just found out about the Multifamily Masters one that's happening. What, on the 13th and 13th, 14th? Yeah, I was like, man, if I go to Orlando, then I might as well just drive the RV and stay for the next 2 weeks for the next Orlando event.
Well, if that's the case, brother, I might be sleeping on your couch.
Yeah, right.
Yo, you still open to underfinancing that RV?
Yeah.
I just found out that BAH in San Francisco is $4,600 a month.
Wow, that's insane.
Wow.
And I've still got 18 months left on my GI Bill.
Wow.
$4,600.
My
That's
girlfriend
wild.
is
All right,
taking
guys.
classes for me.
I think I'm going to
Excellent.
jump off.
Yeah,
Get
we'll go ahead and
off
close it
here.
up. But thanks again, Jens. We really appreciate it. Some awesome value here in your story and some great lessons there.
Thanks for your time,
Thanks.
guys.
Of course. I'll see you guys soon.
See ya.
Yep. You guys have a good evening. We'll
Bye.
see you next time around.
Take care.
Bye.
But no, for real, are you still open to underfinancing that RV? I'm not kidding.
I'd have to talk to my wife, but you know, we're going to be traveling around the country. Let me stop this recording. Hold on.